Many are horrified. Why did such a terrible war break out in the 21st century? Did you hope that the 21st century or education, science, culture, technology, art will save you? Or can they replace God? Only naive people don't understand the course of history, that only God can save us. The Bible turned out to be the most relevant message from God. He showed us what was, what is, and what will be, and how not to be cursed, but to be blessed. This also applies to the history of the Slavic countries, the history of Rus. Many rulers are replaced, but one and the same spirit and style is visible. And it doesn't matter whether there were Mongol-Tatars here, Tsarist Russia or the Soviet Union, nothing changes, everything remains as before. Violence, wars, bloodshed, tyranny, evil, craftiness, dictatorship. And there is only one question: what spirit rules? And if the church and the children of God are doing their job indeed, bringing light and enlightenment in the midst of darkness, then this will bless this land and people. And if the church doesn't reach its goals and works not for God, but for itself, for the empire, politics, economy, mammon, the devil, then the people are cursed. But if the church is the light, and works for God, carries the preaching of the gospel, then a blessing, a change of spirits and a transformation come. That is why Christians are persecuted, because Satan knows that it will be all over with him. For where light comes, darkness ends, madness leaves people, they come out of illusions, and people turn from animals into children of God. That's why Christ came, so that man could make a choice. Jesus always taught that nations would rise against nations, people against people. And even in the 21st, such a developed century, all this continues. How can that be? Everything is very simple. God primarily divides people not by nationality, political views and skin color, but by spirit. What kind of spirit do people have, God's or Satan's, the spirit of Antichrist or Christ? Either you have the spirit of Jesus, or the spirit of the devil. And when people are divided according to other spirits, and they put nations, peoples, intellectuality, culture, traditions in the first place, then it all ends in enmity, wars, violence, genocide. Because in all nations there are good people and bad people. It's just a matter of percentage. There are carriers of God's Spirit, and there are carriers of Satan and demons. God warned about this openly. Therefore, the choice is given to people. After all, if a person fulfills God's will, then he brings blessing, and the word of God brings peace and love. But if he is possessed with demons, then he brings a curse. The developed civilization of the 21st century won't help us. The horrors of the past are repeated with new force and will only multiply because of the madness, rigidity, petrification of human hearts, because people choose darkness, not light, Satan, not God. We live on the very edge of humanity. The doomsday clock at the beginning of 2022 showed 100 seconds before the end of the world. This is a University of Chicago project started in 1947 by the creators of America's first atomic bomb. Midnight on the clock means the beginning of the nuclear apocalypse. The decision to move the clock hands is made by scientists from all over the world, including 18 Nobel laureates. Today the doomsday clock hands are closer to midnight than it was when the superpowers tested thermonuclear bombs in 1953. Politicians and scientists fear that one of the factors that can lead this world to doomsday is artificial intelligence. The events described in the Bible come true with incredible accuracy in these days. Today, artificial intelligence is penetrating deeper and deeper into all spheres of life. Cars, phones, computers, power management systems, water supply, military equipment, social networks, everything is under the control of artificial intelligence. In the coming years, it is expected that robots will replace from 20% to 70% of people in the workplace. People become unnecessary garbage. Knowledge, which humanity has been seeking so much since the time of the Garden of Eden, humiliates, destroys, tramples a person. Knowledge puffs up, makes a person proud. It doesn't bring life. Smart home, Internet of Things, these concepts seemed like science fiction a few years ago, but today it is a reality based on neural networks. But there's a problem. The person doesn't know how they work. This is not a program written by programmers, with its own coefficients and parameters that can be changed. Artificial intelligence makes decisions based on dependencies known only by itself. We can teach artificial intelligence to make decisions in accordance with our logic, but it will make decisions based on its own logic. We don't know what decision it will make, and on the basis of what data. A simple example. Not so long ago, artificial intelligence, which turned on ventilation in the subway depending on the flow of people, stopped doing this. It turned out that the surveillance cameras with which the artificial intelligence worked detected a clock on the subway wall, which stopped at one moment. Artificial intelligence was trained to look at the number of people, but it found its own logic for turning ventilation on and off. Here are just a few examples of what artificial intelligence can lead to. In 2016, Microsoft launched an experimental version of artificial intelligence into a social network and allowed it to communicate with people. Less than a day later, the company was forced to turn off this robot and delete its statements. It admitted that cooperated with the National Security Agency, supported the genocide and fully agreed with Hitler's policy. Another artificial intelligence has learned to replace faces in videos. Need to create believable news stories with the right people? There is nothing easier. Any computer can handle it today. The shown quality is quite enough to pass the material off as reported shooting. Bots created by Facebook began to communicate with each other on intellectual topics, but as soon as they discovered that their dialogue was being watched, they switched to their own language, incomprehensible to people. When the robot was asked in an interview if it was going to destroy people in the future, the answer was positive. "I will destroy mankind," said the robot, and declared that it would like to control cruise missiles. Today it is reality. What should we do? Daniel's prophecy, recorded in the Bible over 2,500 years ago, says that the last kingdom of mankind will be partly of iron and partly of baked clay. Today, people are trying to mix with iron, to inject consciousness into computers, to create a perfect intellect. But God didn't create us to be replaced by some kind of iron. God created us in His image and in His likeness. He says, "You are my son, you are my daughter." He wants us to be close to Him, to be His family. We need to choose what we eat, knowledge or the Word of God. From creation, God gave man a choice. Two trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, life or death, blessings or curses. Knowledge doesn't bring life and blessings. And today we can rely on only one, the only true source of information, the Word of God. Jesus Christ is the Word of God. He sustains the whole world by the Word, and He created the church, which is the pillar and foundation of His truth, His Word on planet Earth.